An act of war. That is how billionaire investor Warren Buffett describes Donald Trump's tariffs. And the economic fallout for all Americans bears out Buffett's choice of words. Like touching a hot stove, the Trump administration has now fired off the first salvo in what is right now looking like a trade war that will raise the cost for just about everything Americans spend money on. It comes 12 weeks after an election in which the price of stuff like eggs, groceries, and housing was top of mind for voters. Donald Trump today imposing tariffs against our three biggest trading partners, a whopping 25% on all items coming in from Canada and from Mexico, and an additional 10% on top of what is currently imposed on China. For some context, 43% of all the stuff we buy from abroad comes from those three countries. Unsurprisingly, our largest trading partners are responding to Trump's, quote, act of war. China is imposing a tax of up to 15% on goods exported by U.S. farmers. Washington Post reports this, quote, the move targets some of the United States' most important exports to China, including soybeans, meat, and grains. Canada, which, by the way, is our top supplier of grain and meat and our second largest supplier of auto parts after Mexico, is imposing tariffs on $107 billion worth of goods from the U.S. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau calls Donald Trump's move to punish Canada a, quote, very dumb thing to do. The CEO of retail giant Target is saying today that the impact for American consumers could be immediate. Watch.
We know for certain categories, like fruits and vegetables, where during this winter season, we depend on Mexico for a significant amount of supply. You know, those are categories where we'll try to protect pricing, but the consumer will likely see price increases over the next couple of days.
Over the next couple of days? So those go
are
in
really
instantaneously?
short supply chains. You think about all the fresh produce.
Yeah.
You know, we depend on Mexico during the winter. We're going to try to make sure we can do everything we can to protect pricing. But if there's a 25% tariff, those prices will go up.
For things like what? Strawberries, avocados, bananas? What are we talking about?
You've got that list right.
Is that so?
Those are some of the key items.
And those prices could change within days in the stores?
Could change certainly over the next week.
Within the next week. And there's more. Trump has promised tariffs on aluminum and steel, agricultural products, and foreign cars in the next few weeks, just adding to the turmoil and uncertainty in the global economy. There's a lot at stake here for just about everyone. The tariffs impact the pocketbook issues that keep people up at night. They have the power to sway elections. But there's also our standing in the world. New York Times reports this, quote, if Canada and Mexico decide that America is no longer a reliable partner, one that keeps its word and prizes stability over chaos, they may seek other customers for their goods. They could even turn to U.S. adversaries like China. America would end up more isolated on the world stage. The issue isn't just about trade. It's about America's alliances in general. No larger sign of our isolation right now than this. Officials from our normally friendly neighbor to the north talking tough to and about us. Here's the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford.
If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. So, and I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison out east. They rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard. We're going to come back twice as hard.
Donald Trump launching a trade war that will cost consumers and hurt American businesses and potentially leave America isolated on the world stage is where we start today with the aforementioned Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. Premier Ford, thank you for being here. I saw those remarks. I read the coverage of it. Just tell us again how, first of all, back up and tell us how Trump's moves impact your constituents and impact us here at home.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Nicole. And I have to tell you, Canada loves the U.S. They love the American people. There's one person that's created this chaos, and that's President Trump. You know, President Trump had a mandate to come in and cut costs and create more jobs. That's a total opposite. Manufacturing plants will close. Assembly lines will shut down in the auto sector within the next week. unemployment will go up and inflation will go up, cost of gas will go up. And this is the last thing we want to do. We are your #1 customer in the world, Canada. We buy more products than anyone. We buy 400% more vehicles than Mexico, 200% more than any jurisdiction in the world. And by the way, you take the energy, the 4.3 million barrels that we ship down every single day to keep your economy going, take that off the balance sheet. The U.S. has a $56 billion trade surplus with Canada, and I have no problem with that. Ontario alone is the engine of Canada. We're the largest economic driver. If we were a standalone country, we'd be the 3rd largest trading partner in the world to the U.S. Ontario alone. We're the #1 trading partner to 17 states, #2 to 11 other ones. And across Canada, we're the #1 trading partner to 28 states. I want to ship the U.S. more electricity. I want to ship them more high-grade nickel. That 50% of your economy and your military relies on nickel, high-grade nickel coming from Ontario. We have more critical minerals than anywhere in the world. I don't want to go to China. I don't want to ship it out. But he keeps putting, these threats and trying to attack our families and our businesses. We'll have no choice. And I'm the first to say, let's tariff China. They're the problem, not your closest friend and ally. We up here in Canada, we find it ironic. We love the Americans, and here he is cozying up to Putin. You got to be kidding me. When we stood shoulder to shoulder with each other for a couple centuries right now, through tough times, and we were there for the Americans, and you've been there for us. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, Nicole, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But we're going to get hurt, but the Americans are going to get hurt tremendously.
Let's go through some of the items and just help me understand and us understand the interconnectedness that makes this possible. You said this. Today I'm writing to every senator, congressman and woman and the governors from New York State, Michigan and Minnesota, telling them that if these tariffs persist, if the Trump administration follows through on any more tariffs, we will immediately apply a 25% surcharge on the electricity we export. We will not hesitate to shut off their power as well. Could the lights go out in some of those states where you supply electricity?
Well, that's the last thing I want to do, but I'm going to implement immediately 25% surcharge. We keep 1.5 million homes and businesses lit up in New York State, in Michigan, in Minnesota. I've talked to all 3 governors. And I have to apologize to the American people that we're going through this. This is totally unnecessary. We're your strongest ally. But to answer your question, yes, when our plants start shutting down and we have large unemployment lines and people are trying to pay their mortgages and put food on their table, I will use every single tool in our toolkit to fight back. And that's the last thing I want to do. Nicole, I love the Americans. I spent 20 years of my life in Chicago and New Jersey, and all Canadians love Americans. It's one person that's causing this problem. And it's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. Let's continue building the 2 strongest nations in the world. I call it the AMCAN fortress. We have the critical minerals. We have the energy. We have the steel and the aluminum that you need. We have the lumber to build their homes. And he's going after it all. So what else can we do? We're going to start shipping it to countries around the world. And that's what we're going to do. We have more critical minerals than anywhere in the world right here in Ontario. So, let's work this out. Let's move forward. And let's be 2 great partners as we have been for a couple hundred years.
You ripped up Ontario's contract with Starlink. Explain that.
Well, we tore it up. I can't have anyone who's connected so deeply with President Trump trying to destroy our province and try to destroy our country. It's unacceptable. We're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the entire world. Ontario is. We have a liquor control board, so it all goes through the province. We ship up 3,600 products from the U.S. from 35 states. We have now cleared off all alcohol across all the shelves, And I just encouraged all our premiers, which they just agreed to, they're pulling all their alcohol off. So states like Kentucky, they're bourbon. They're going to be laying people off. They may be shutting parts of their plants down, which again, as far as I'm concerned, is unacceptable. We shouldn't have to be doing this whatsoever. I'm going to stockpile the high-grade nickel and sell it to the rest of the world. That China has the market cornered on it. 50% of your products that you manufacture nickel with in the military come from Ontario. That's stopped. I'm cutting off everything we possibly can. I don't want to do it. I'd rather do the opposite, shipping more high-grade nickel and more lithium and more cobalt and every other critical mineral that we have up here. But unfortunately, there's one person that should be held accountable, and that's President Trump.